What's up, Cleftones? This is Darrin from CleftoneGrooves.com, back with the third installment in this four-part series of getting amazing sound for your interviews. And so in the first week, just a quick recap for you. In the first week, what we did was we talked about how we can avoid microphone bleed when you're working with multiple microphones in the same room. So here we have a set of 2 tracks, an interview between 2 persons, Dr. Ruben West and Corey Briggs, and how we, in the first video, handled that by automating our volume. We drew in our lines here so that when one person was speaking, the other person was turned down, and vice versa. When that person was speaking, the other person was turned down. So that was the first thing that we managed to do. Then in the second video, we touched briefly on doing the fades at the beginning of each file, as well as at the end of each file, and all of the files that we had to make edits in between. So we have our fades built in. And then we also talked a little more in depth on how we can wield EQ to get the sound that we want, kind of like a chisel, so to speak, to kind of shape our sound, to really bring out that diamond in the rough, and then to overall make our volume, our levels consistent for the entire track, so that we don't have really, really soft parts that we can barely hear, and then really, really loud parts that, man, we gotta hurry up and turn that down because, you know, that scares the mess out of you when all of a sudden things get super loud and it's unexpected. So the compressor helps keep your levels under control. And so last week when we played these tracks back and listened to the sound quality, they sounded pretty good. They sounded like they were about ready to go, at least what most people would think. But what in the world could we do at this point to really take the audio to the next level? Well, before we get into that, I just want to give you a refresher here, and let's go ahead and just play back what we've done so far. So let's go ahead and listen to some of this audio here.
I'm here, and next on the CD, we have none other than Corey, the builder, Corey Briggs. Corey, welcome.
Man, thank you very much, Dr. West. A pleasure to be here.
Now, here's what I know, Corey. At some point in your life, you realized it was time to wake up and answer the call. Tell us about that point.
I think like most of all of us, you know, we subscribe to that 40-40-40 life.
Okay, so we hear that audio. It sounds pretty good. So today, for the true audiophiles out there, I'm going to go to, I guess, a little bit more of an advanced method here, if you will. And also something to think about with this is that I will be using some third-party plugins that I would highly recommend that you get, or you get some that handle the same functions as what I'm going to show you today. So to start off, one of the other things that we have to be cognizant of is that some people, when they speak, I notice, like with myself, one of the things that happens to me is that I will have a lot of sibilance in my speech. So when I say words that start with an S, or maybe they start with a T, that sound, that really nasty sibilant sound of the S or the T words can cause a problem in your recording, because those are right in the frequency range where that can cause ear fatigue for your listeners. And so you don't want to have your listeners tuning you out because they can't stand to listen to your S words or your T words. You know, if they can't make it through the entire recording because of that, that is a problem. And over time, you know, people won't know what it is that they don't like about the recording. Consciously they won't, but subconsciously their mind is like, man, what in the world? I got to turn this off. I can't listen to this anymore. And sometimes it might be because the frequencies are overemphasized on your S's and your T words. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach for a plugin that is actually made by a company called Waves, and they're world-renowned for their plugins and the things that they make. And basically what a plugin is just like how we reached over here and grabbed EQ the other day, and also compression as well. These are plugins. So what this is now is a third-party plugin, meaning that this isn't something that comes standard with Studio One. This is something that you can buy and use within Studio One or Pro Tools or Nuendo or any kind of other DAW that you can think of, as long as it supports VST or VST, I think it's 3. There's all kind of different formats. Just know that this is a third-party plugin, and it will work with pretty much any digital audio workstation out there. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up because Corey has just a tiny bit too much sibilance on his S's when we listen to them. So this is Waves de-esser. They actually make a plugin to kind of dumb down people's S's and T words. So before I activate this, let's just listen to some of Corey's speech, and let's see if we can identify some locations where those S's and those T's kind of stick out.
Truthfully, my daily actions. I'll never forget one time preparing to do a presentation and my daughter coming in the bathroom saying, Daddy, I'm just so happy.
So you could kind of hear it there when he said presentation and saying. Let's play that back one more time.
And my daughter coming in the bathroom saying, Daddy, I'm just so happy.
So saying and so happy. Let's see, where's presentation?
Do a presentation and
yeah, notice how he hit that T pretty spot on there, pretty rough, that presentation. So that T and those S's and whatnot, those things can be distractions, believe it or not, for your listeners. So I've actually kind of already got this set up. I'm going to go ahead and activate this. Now, again, you have to listen carefully. I can't stress enough that we're not trying to make moves here that we can hear the plugins working. We want them to be as transparent as possible because we want this interview and the speech to be as natural as possible. Therefore, you're not going to hear this like, oh my gosh, notice the difference. It's very minute. It's very, very under the radar. So you have to listen carefully to what's being done here. So let me just start this up back here a little bit and just watch what's going on here. What I've done is, this is the threshold, basically at minus 34.8. What it's saying here is that if any of the sibilance at the frequency I've identified gets above minus 34, clamp down on it, pretty much like a compressor would do. And this frequency, 6,000 hertz or 6 kilohertz and up is what it's telling it to do. 6 kilohertz and up. Anything that is an S that goes over that, take care of that and knock that out. So let's go ahead and just play this back and see the difference here.
Certainly. Perspective is everything. Certainly. Perspective.
So that's without. Now watch what happens to certainly when I turn this on.
Certainly. Perspective is everything.
Yeah. And
so you see how that was working. It was very momentary, but again, it's not a huge difference. It's just enough where the speech is still natural and you can still make out what Corey is saying there. So let's go ahead and just let this play a little bit longer and let you kind of get used to listening to this.
Certainly. Perspective is everything.
Yeah. And so what was some of the things that you focused on changing?
Truthfully, my daily actions. I'll never forget one time preparing to do a presentation and my daughter coming in the bathroom saying, Dad.
So you see the attenuation or the amount that it's reducing those S's. It's not by a whole lot. Now, if you really want to hear this work, let me just go ahead and pull this down and then you can really see what I'm talking about here.
Certainly. Perspective is everything.
Yeah. And so what was some of the things that you focused on changing?
Truthfully, my daily actions.
Now you see, notice how we lost some of the clarity, some of that sharpness in Corey's voice there because we pulled this down so much. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back up to where I had it. Again, we just want to pinch those sibilant frequencies down just enough. So I think I had it right about here at 36. And let's go ahead and play it back again one more time.
Certainly. Perspective is everything.
Yeah. And so what was some of the things that you focused on changing?
Truthfully, my daily actions. I'll never forget one time preparing to do a presentation and my daughter coming in the bathroom saying, Daddy, I'm just.
So notice again, the difference is small, but it's still there. It knocks down those frequencies and makes the listening more pleasurable for your listeners. So that's one small thing here, de-essing your recordings. Now, Studio One does have a version of that in their compressor. There's actually a preset here that you can use, but it doesn't really seem to work the way that I want it to, as far as getting it to really sound like it's actually taking off the S sounds. So that's why I prefer to use Waves de-esser instead. I've played around with this, but when you know something that's just quick, you throw it on there and you just bring down the level to what you want. You pick your frequency and you're done. It's all about efficiency. And so far, this has been the simplest de-esser I've found to use that gets me the results that I want. Now, I do have some other options I have yet to try. I've got so many plugins, but I will just say, once you kind of find one you like, you kind of keep using it. You kind of just stick to it. But anyway, that's one thing that we can do to take our audio to the next level, is taking care of those frequencies. Now, let's move on to the next thing that we can do here. Now, when we listen to these vocals here, they sound, pretty like they're in a hotel room. If you listen very closely, you can hear some of the background. Let me just play this and let you listen. So don't listen to the voices. See if you can pick out the background noise. You can kind of hear that if you pay close attention.
I'm here, and next on the CD, we have none other than Corey, the builder, Corey Briggs. Corey, welcome.
Man, thank you very much, Dr. West. A pleasure to be here.
Now, here's what I know, Corey. At some point in your life,
so you can especially hear it when Corey is speaking. But you know what? If you can't really make it out, let me go ahead and go to the end of this audio. And you know what? Let me go ahead and stretch this out. And what I'll do is let you listen to the back end here. So the volume is up, and let me let you hear what it sounds like here. This is what is under Ruben and Corey's voice. You hear that? That noise? Let me take care of these fades. You hear all that background noise? So again, another third-party plugin that I would highly, highly recommend you getting, especially if you're going to be recording in all kinds of different types of environments. Like here, I was in the hotel room with Dr. West. One of the best things you can do is get a plugin by a little company called Isotope. And Isotope makes this really cool software package called RX. And RX has what's called dialogue denoise. And I'm going to just tell you right out of the gate, the default setting of this usually does the trick for me for just basic overall noise removal in dialogue. So I'm going to come over here to Isotope RX5. And by the way, just so you know, RX6 just came out last month, April of 2017. And they've got several different versions of this, but you can get the plugins, like what I'm about to pull here. There's a whole plugin pack, plus the audio editor. You can get what's called RX Elements right now until the end of May for $99. That is an awesome deal for getting better sound quality. Now, myself, I'm going to pick up the advanced version. That's a little more costly, but it's definitely going to be worth it for what I do. Anyway, let's go ahead and drop this on here. And let me show you why you should go ahead and spend this $99. Okay, so I'm dropping this here, and I'm also going to copy it over to Corey's track. Okay, so again, one more time, let's just turn this off and let you listen to the end of this track. All right, you hear that? Maybe you need to turn your speakers up. I'll play it a couple more times. All right. And there's the last time. Okay, so now let me engage this. And again, this is just out of the box here on auto mode, not changing anything at all. Listen to the reduction of the noise here of just right here. And then just be prepared to be blown away at what I show you next with this. So notice you still hear the noise, but not quite as much. Let me show you a difference. Sticks out like a sore thumb now, right? As opposed to that. Now here's the cool part. All that noise was just reduced. How does it affect the vocals?
I'm here, and next on the CD, we have none other than Corey, the builder. Corey.
Can you hear any loss in the audio quality? I can't. That's what's so amazing. The noise is gone, but the voices are still there.
Man, thank you very much, Dr. West. A pleasure to be here.
So a little note or tip, I should say, about noise reduction. Many people who use iMovie or other things like that might see that you have the option to do that with your videos, or if you, I don't know if you could do audio in iMovie, but in any software where you have the option to do noise reduction, one of the things you have to be careful with when you're using noise reduction is, yes, while you do want to reduce the noise, if you apply too much of it, really any amount of noise reduction is going to degrade the quality of your audio. And especially if you over apply it, your audio is just going to sound like garbage. So hence the reason why you first of all want to record in the best possible environment as you possibly can and get the best possible quality right up front so that you don't have to worry about noise reduction. But you know, in an ideal world, sure, that's possible. When you're in the real world, that's not possible. So then next, you have the tools, but you have to know how to use them. So again, your noise reduction matters. And I'm going to tell you right now, government agencies rely on this software for cleaning up audio for obvious reasons, you know, spying and things of that nature. They use this software. And there's a reason why. You just heard it. So iZotope is probably one of the best noise reduction software. Actually, I would call it the best noise reduction software out there. Because, again, it got rid of the noise, as you heard, but the vocals still managed to stay the same. And that was just out of the gate, default mode. I didn't do anything here to even change that. And I'm just going to tell you, a lot of times when I'm doing dialogue and all of that, this really works just letting it do its thing on auto mode and not really messing around with it. And there's so much more I can go on about iZotope RX, but that's literally just going to have to be a whole nother video for a whole nother day. So when I pick up RX6, guys, I will put together a video and show you some of the other really cool things that it can do. But in the meantime, if you want to know more, go to iZotope.com. That's iZotope.com, and just look at their RX package. It's just amazing what you can do to clean up your audio, repair your audio. I've seen this software remove police sirens in the background of an interview. It's that sick. So anyway, that's one more thing that you can do. So we talked about de-essing, getting rid of the frequencies of the sibilants, the T's and the S's in somebody's speech. And now cleaning up the background sound of the room, bringing in some noise reduction, and again, not using a whole lot of it here, just on auto mode, and just using it to taste. Again, if you use any noise reduction, it will degrade your audio, so do not overuse it. Again, as I keep stressing with anything on this, it's a lot of the small moves that add up to big results. You don't want to make big moves on every single plugin that you're going to use. Okay, so now, the next thing that we can do, after we listen to these vocals, let me see if you can pick out what else we can do here.
I'm here, and next on the CD, we have none other than Corey, the builder, Corey Briggs. Corey, welcome.
Man, thank you very much, Dr. West. A pleasure to be here.
Okay, so do you have any clue what we should do next? Well, I know I can't hear you speaking back to me, so I'm just going to go ahead and tell you the answer here. So, yes, we have mono tracks here, not stereo. These are mono tracks. This is just one for Dr. West on his microphone and one for Corey on his. But, we don't want that mono sound. I mean, at least I don't. I like to kind of thicken my vocals up a little bit and breathe a little extra life into them. And so one of the things that I have set up down here, you'll see I've got this track called DBL. And that's just my terminology. You can name these tracks anything you want. I can name this ham and cheese if I wanted to. But, this is DBL, and what that stands for me, is double. So what I'm going to go ahead and do here is another third-party plugin that I like to use is Waves Doubler. And basically what this does for you is I'm going to send these tracks, a send of those tracks through this doubler, and what it's going to do is it's going to give me an extra couple of channels here that will be in the right and left ears or channels of your headphones or your speakers that you're listening on. And we're not going to turn it up a whole lot. Again, it's not something that we want to actually hear, but it will still be there just under the main vocals, and it will add a little bit of richness. So let me stop talking about it and just kind of show you what I mean here. So I've got my doubler set up here. Again, this is from Waves, but now let me go ahead and go down to the sends section of Dr. West's track, and I'm going to say double. Now, just to let you hear what it sounds like with it turned up, I'm going to go ahead and play it now.
I'm here, and next on the CD, we have none other than Corey, the Builder. Corey.
So do you hear how it's very readily apparent that you can hear it in both the right and left channels, as well as the original file? Because what we're doing here, we're not sending this directly through this. That would be sending the whole channel this way. But I don't want to send the whole channel there. I just want to send a signal from the channel and keep the original intact. So that's what I've done here. That's why this is called sends, because I am sending this channel to my double track, or my double channel. Let me get that correct here. So again, we don't want to hear all of that doubling going on. We just want just a taste of it. So I'm going to bring this down to about -20. That seems to be a suitable level for this. And by the way, I'm going at a very minute pace here because I'm holding the shift key on my keyboard as I move the arrow with my mouse, and that allows you to make finer adjustments with these meters here. And I'm going to go ahead and double this with Corey. And now let's take a listen now that I've mixed this in to what I think is a comfortable level.
I'm here, and next on the CD, we have none other than Corey, the Builder. Corey Briggs. Corey, welcome.
Man, thank you very much, Dr. West. A pleasure to be here.
So notice, if you pay close attention, the sound is still there, but it's very, very minor. Just adding just a little bit of extra richness to both Ruben and Corey's voices. So it's just one of those subtle things that you notice when it's gone. If I remove it,
I'm here, and next on the CD, we have none other than...
And then it's there just enough where just listening to it, you don't notice it. But again, subconsciously, your mind appreciates this. Check this out.
I'm here, and next on the CD, we have none other than Corey, the Builder. Corey Briggs. Corey, welcome.
Man, thank you very much, Dr. West. A pleasure to be here.
Okay, so again, we have just enough of that doubler effect, and now there's one other thing that I would like to do that will really sweeten this up, and again, it's just a very minute thing, but what I also like to do is add a little bit of reverb to that double so that, again, it adds a little bit extra of that fullness, that richness to the voice. So again, another third-party plugin for you. I know I'm showing a lot of third-party plugins. By the way, Waves is waves.com. You can go check out their plugins there anytime, and they're always running deals, so don't get scared of the prices. You can find some of those things so ridiculously dirt cheap, but this is Waves True Verb. And again, all these plugins have so many different settings. I'll just have to go through them in another video. But just know that I'm using a little bit of reverb. You know, it's kind of funny. I tell you to deaden your room and get rid of all your reflections from your flat surfaces in your room, only to turn around and add just a touch of reverb back into your mix. It's pretty funny. But, you know, that's how audio guys are. But let me go ahead and, again, we're going to go to the sends section of this track, and I'm going to send some of this signal to the reverb effect. Now, the only reason that the reverb does not have a send here, in case you're wondering, is because I loaded this as an effects track, whereas this track is a bus track. And then you see here, these are just regular audio tracks, and you can see that by the little waveforms down here. This says effects, and this lets you know that this is a bus track because it's taking multiple tracks. You can take any track here and send it into this bus track, except for this because it doesn't have a send. Or what you could do is, well, actually you couldn't even send it that way. Well, I learned something new about Studio One. Anyway, effects tracks, that's what I usually use reverbs for. You can also do other effects and things, but sometimes I like to send my effects different places. So if you want to send effects, remember, use a bus channel instead of an effects channel. So now, just to let you hear a little bit about what this reverb does, I'm going to leave this level up, but just know we're going to turn it down later.
I'm here, and next on the CD, we have none other than Corey, the builder, Corey Briggs. Corey, welcome.
Man, thank you very much, Dr. West. A pleasure to be here.
So again, just a very minute amount of ambience or atmosphere or background has been added to this recording. I'm going to go ahead and drop this reverb. Again, we want it at a level where if it's gone, you'd miss it. But if it's there, it's definitely something that you don't notice consciously. You don't want someone listening and, hey, there's a lot of reverb on this, right? You want them to just be able to listen to it and appreciate it. So I'm going to drop this down to about -15 here, and let's play back.
I'm here, and next on the CD, we have none other than Corey, the builder, Corey Briggs. Corey, welcome.
Man, thank you very much, Dr. West. A pleasure to be here.
Now,
okay, so now that we've added the reverb, let me go ahead and take the double off, and let me just play this back for you so you can hear what this sounds like before we added the double.
I'm here, and next on the CD, we have none other than Corey, the builder. Corey.
Sounds very dry, right? But then when you add that double and that reverb, notice how it seems to just open up just a little bit more and gets full.
I'm here, and next on the CD, we have none other than Corey, the builder, Corey Briggs. Corey, welcome.
Man, thank you very much, Dr. West. A pleasure to be here.
Now,
so that's what we can do now to take our sound to the next level in this interview. So that's the third installment here. That's what I've got for you today. Just adding some of those little minute things that a lot of people, if they don't work in audio, don't think about. So again, you think about the sibilants that people have when they speak. You want to get those S's and those T's under control. So we used a de-esser today and talked a little bit about how to use that. And then we also talked about noise reduction. Again, just a little dab will do you. Again, we don't want to overuse noise reduction because that degrades the quality of your audio. But if you're going to use noise reduction, then I highly recommend you check out Isotope RX and their suite of plugins that you can use in your digital audio workstation. There's also other really cool plugins that they have, by the way. D-Hum is a really good one. Some microphones have a emitting noise like the SM58, around 60 or 50 hertz. It kind of puts out a little bit of a hum. This D-Hum, you can dial in like surgically to that frequency and remove that nasty hum. D-Click, you might have maybe a quick little transient noise. Maybe you have, maybe a snap or something like that. D-Click is very good at removing that. Again, those are all, I'm going to have to do videos on showing you what that can do. Or better yet, how about I just tell you, save myself some work, how about I just tell you, go check all the stuff out at isotope.com. They have tons of videos showing you how to use all of those plugins and what it's capable of doing. Because really, all their plugins are just amazing. So anyway, yes, noise reduction, use it very sparingly, if at all. And then the other thing, too, is to thicken up your vocals a little bit. Try doubling them a little bit here. And on this doubler, just one quick note. The direct signal, I have this muted. This is panned center. Panning means either it's coming out of the left channel or the right channel. I didn't want the center because I already have the center coming out of this channel. I did not disable it, right? So I disabled this channel because I only wanted the sides, the left and right channels coming out of this track. And so that's where, when I initially started with this doubler, you could hear the left and right channels seem to have a little bit of extra something to them right there. So, and then the next thing is you bring that down in the mix just enough where, again, you miss it if it's gone, but you definitely don't readily notice that it's there when it is there. And then just a little extra touch, just a little hint of reverb just to open up the mix even more on these voices. So some definite tips and tricks there that you can take your audio to the next level, not only with interviews, but even if you're doing an audio book. Again, you have to use these effects and these tricks sparingly, but just enough can go a long way to adding a nice rich sound to your vocals. So anyway, next week what we're going to be doing is talking about how to finish off your product with your mastering and bringing your levels up. So we'll be focusing here on this. And anyway, guys, here's to getting better audio at home. Here's to getting amazing sounding interviews. And look for part 4 of 4 next week. Have a good weekend.